Hey, we're back. And today we're going to talk about pouring concrete in the winter. Can you do it? Is it a smart thing to do? Should you just wait till spring? We're going to talk about that. But before we get started, make sure you dingle on that bell, hit that subscribe button. Of course, leave us a comment because we always like reading your comments. They're quite interesting sometimes. So,
Hmm.
all right, let's get started here, Rich. Let's say it's about 30, 35 degrees outside, chance of snow. Can we pour concrete?
The simple answer is yes.
Oh,
You
there we
can.
go. All right. All right. For that, keep it square and level. We'll talk to you later.
Till next time.
Okay. So why can we or can't we pour concrete in the winter?
No, you can. It's just you have to take some precautions, right? So when you look at the concrete, ASTM, all the scientists,
Right.
they start calling cold weather as anything where you're at 40 or expecting temperatures below 40.
Okay.
So growing up in Chicago and you working in Chicago, we don't even think about 40. We think about freezing. Those
Yes.
guys, those
Yeah.
poor bastards. When you got ice and snow all over the place, it's bad.
Yes.
So the key is to protect freshly poured concrete till it hits 500 psi.
Okay.
So that's about 3, 4 days, right? Because our mixtures are usually 3,000 to 4,500 psi in 28 days, right? Your 5 bag mix, 3,000 and 4,000 for 6 bag mix. So we're looking for somewhere in the area of 500 psi. So 3, 4 days, you got to protect it.
Right. And keep it warm.
Keep it warm because what happens is ice crystals in the cream, your cement, not your rocks, not your aggregate, not your sand, but in your cream, your cement water mixture. If you get ice crystals in there, that'll disrupt the structure that strengthens concrete as it cures. And if it reaches freezing or freezes before it hits 500 psi, it can lose 50% of its strength. So you can imagine maybe it's your driveway, maybe it's your garage floor. Not a big deal. You're not going to be running semis over it. But I
Yep.
don't think I want to buy the condo on the 20th floor of a frozen building.
Yeah. That could be major structural issues. And
Absolutely.
so how can you test to make sure you're getting these correct PSIs?
So typically, when you pour the concrete before you pump it, you'll do a slump test, which
Right.
is, when you figure out how much water is in there, you pour out a little bit in a cone and you lift the cone and it runs off. That's its slump, right? So when it
Right.
stops, then you measure that. That's drop 3 inches, 3 inch slump. So what we also do is we have a series of cylinders that are sitting there next to the truck. And the engineers that are monitoring all this will take random. You might have 10 trucks in that pour. They might only take cylinders from 3 trucks, maybe the first, the fifth, the ninth, that you don't know. On a big job like a nuclear power plant, I guarantee you they take samples from every single truck.
Right.
Anyway, you fill these cylinders of concrete. You have to put this rod in them, and you shake them down like 15 times, 20 times. There's actually a standard for it. You scrape off the top, you set them aside. And those are then taken to a lab and they're broken at 7, 14, 28, and 56 days. And that will give you your compressive strength. So if you were doing cold weather and we're saying you want to keep it warm for 3 days or whatever until it hits 500 psi, at 7 days, you should be at 8 or 900 by now.
Right.
If you did not protect it and we break one at 7 days and say it's only 400 psi because it froze and it hasn't thawed, so it means it hasn't continued to hydrate,
Right.
cure,
Correct.
that concrete's no good. It may have to come out.
Oh,
Exactly.
that's not something you want to hear.
No. So, and that's why, concrete that you expose to like de-icing agents and things, um, it needs to reach 4,500 psi before it starts going through freeze thaw cycles. Otherwise, it can go bad. It becomes brittle.
Okay.
So exterior, that's why we do 6 bag mix for exterior. And it's important to do that.
Okay. So what should we be doing to prep for this if we're going to pour in the winter, so let's say it's 30, 35 degrees out, what do we need to do ahead of time?
Well, the first thing is make sure you have all your material on site. Okay, because you're not going to have time to go get material to save your pour after you pour.
Yes.
So think ahead, and we'll give you some options here. So one of the first things you might want to do is enclosures
Okay.
or use windbreaks. So enclosures and windbreaks are going to be small buildings. You could use blankets, insulated forms. So here they're pulling the blankets off. It looks like they're preparing for the pour because I can see the insulation, the two inch foam
Yep.
around the perimeter. So
Yep.
that's their thermal break. So I don't know if they're setting up or they've done setting up. I see the laser. So it looks like they're done setting up and they're actually putting all the blankets up to protect for
Yeah.
tomorrow morning's pour. And
So,
there you are. It's all protected for the tomorrow's pour.
right.
Those blankets will keep the earth's warmth in and the moisture from the air from getting into the ground. So the ground still might be, even if the ground's only 35 degrees, it's not going to be frozen and it's not going to be full of moisture. So you're good to go.
Right.
But
And then,
enclosures and windbreaks work great. Like you build a tent, you put plastic over it. There you go. There's a nice enclosure. You know, that's not that hard to do. Some PVC pipe, a couple of 2x4s, right? Just
oh
put it
yeah,
all
the,
together,
the
cover the
bows,
plastic, and keep the warmth in there. That's, if you got to get this job done, you got to be creative.
right. These bows are just made out of PVC. That's just PVC tubing.
Yeah.
Let me
So
see.
the blankets are probably the most important, but then again, you've got look at that, nice enclosure, blankets. Don't know what the temperature is that you need both. There must be in northern Minnesota.
Yeah.
So, and again, if your ground has 3 inches of frost, you don't want to pour. Do not pour on 3 inches or more of frost. What you want to do is thaw that out. So again, we said take a layer of 6 mil plastics, set it there on the ground, and blow a torpedo heater underneath there. And that'll thaw it out pretty quick. Just let it blow across. It'll pull out the moisture. It'll thaw it out. And if you're pouring the next day, then get them blankets down. You
Right.
know, you don't wait till you have concrete sitting on the curb that you have these issues.
Yeah. So here they were prepping. It was ready to go. Here's where they're getting ready to start pouring. They're pulling the blankets off. And you don't want to do on frozen ground. So then that's where you're going to build one of those tents and go ahead and just blow the heat in there to thaw it out first. And that doesn't matter whether it's gravel or the dirt. You want to, you can't have that frozen below temp.
Yeah, actually,
freezing
the
material.
Concrete Institute just you don't need to heat your aggregate. As long as the water you're using is heated, it will work so that your final mixture is at a certain temp. So you might want to, your water in the mix plant would have to be this much higher because the aggregate may cool it down, right? So
Yeah.
that's up to the plant to do it, but it's up to the superintendent or whoever's getting that load to determine whether to accept that load or not.
Right.
So this is a good example of, this is a base for a windmill.
Yep.
But you see they've got insulated forms at the bottom. They've got their blankets over the concrete. But again, because it's a foundation and it's ultimately going to be buried, they're not worried about the finish.
Yep.
You're pretty much not going to get away with doing this in the driveway.
No.
Most people kind of like some kind of a broom finish or crawl finish, right? They're not going to go for the blue tart finish.
Okay. So then is there anything special we need to do with the concrete mixer?
There's a couple of different things you can do with your concrete. They have mixes that are specifically designed for cold weather. First thing is air entrained concrete. If you look on your concrete delivery ticket, it should say air entrained. And what it does, it actually has admixtures that create bubbles in it. And those bubbles are extremely important in concrete, especially in cold weather, because it creates the space that allows for expansion and contraction.
Okay.
If you pour concrete that is not air entrained and you use it outside, then you're going to have to protect that concrete from freezing because it may just expand or contract too much, crack, or
Okay.
expand too much in the summer and just explode. And you've seen that highways where they buckle, things
Right.
like that. That means not enough air. So there's other admixtures though. The type 3 or HE they call it. It's a high early curing concrete admixture.
Okay.
You can actually add type 1 or type 2 porcelain cement, 100 to 200 pounds per yard, and increase its curing speed. All of these things are going to add to the cost though. But that cost, there may be cost savings because you don't have to tent it for 5 or 6 days. Maybe you only got to tent it for 3.
Yeah.
So maybe it cures faster. So you're not out there with the headlights of your pickup truck on the slab until 3 in the morning trying to get a finish on it.
Right.
So that's the reason for the admixture. So some of the other admixtures are silica fume, metacolin. Um, your concrete plants will actually, like your salesperson, when you call in for a batch and you describe the use,
Yeah.
the expected temperatures, they will typically know what the mixture should be, but you really should understand what they're saying back to you.
Yes. So is it are there's like can't you like add some chlorides or something to this to like help
You
with that
can,
mixture?
yeah, no, we added calcium chloride to our, like maybe a 50-pound bag on a 10 load mix, whatever. I mean, I'm not even sure what that ratio comes out to. But chloride, calcium chloride in particular, it can react with aluminum or steel, anything embedded in the concrete, so that could cause you a problem. If it's a driveway with 6x6 welded wire fabric, maybe not such a big deal, but I don't
Right.
think I'd want if it was a curtain wall kind of set up for a high rise, I'm pretty sure I don't want to hang aluminum off of that then.
Right. Right.
Um, and then also sulfates in the water can actually react with that. So probably not the best idea. You're better off using the admixtures that they've designed.
And there are like some municipalities that won't even allow it to be used. So
Right.
that's just right in their in the code book, and it says, no additives, no chloride additives in the concrete.
No fluoride additives, but
Well, yeah.
again, temperatures. Temperatures for concrete during the pour. So this is going to this is the truck temperature, when it comes to your job site. So if the temperature is above 30 degrees
Okay.
outside,
Yeah.
so again, Concrete Institute or ASTM, whatever, they're saying cold weather is defined if it's expected or falling to 40 degrees or below.
Okay.
So from 30 to 40 degrees, that concrete should show up to your job at 60 degrees Fahrenheit. And then you want to place it as quick as you can.
Uh-huh.
If it's 0 to 30 degrees, which you guys probably are now, huh?
Oh yeah, every bit of that.
Yeah. So that concrete should show up at least 65 degrees. If you're at 0 or below, you can still pour. You want to make sure that ground's not frozen. You're going to have them blankets down, like in this picture.
Yeah.
That concrete should show up at 70 degrees.
Yeah. You can see the steam. This is the picture I was looking for. You can see all the steam coming
Yeah.
off the concrete.
And like I said earlier, it's going to cost you extra money to do this, but you have to understand concrete, when we say curing, in concrete terms, they call it hydration. Hydration to me sounds like it's getting wet, right?
Right.
But it's not what they mean. Hydration means it's curing and it's a chemical process. If it does it too slow or if it freezes, it's not going to cure properly.
Mhm.
So it needs to get placed at a certain temperature. It needs to come out of the truck at a certain temperature because they know it's going to start cooling because of ground and air temperature. But the hydration is a chemical reaction, which will then increase its thermal. It will rise in temperature. So what you're looking for, what they've figured out is that if it's 30 degrees and I pour at 60, it might drop to 45 or 50 while I'm placing it. But as it starts curing, it'll get back above that 60. It'll hit its 500 PSI within a few days and you're going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
If you place concrete and it's only 0 to 30 and it's 50-degree concrete, it's going to drop to 25. At 25, it starts getting crystals in it. It's not going to cure properly. You're not going to hit that 500 psi for 2 weeks,
Yep.
and you have weak concrete. So that delivery temperature is important. Now,
Okay, so we've gotten the concrete delivered, everything's set. What are we going to do now? How can we watch this stuff? Do we need to watch it, or can we just get in our trucks and go home?
yeah, you want to monitor it. You do need to keep an eye on it, depending on what you're doing. I mean, like the picture you got up, these guys are pouring a slab, and I'm assuming they're going to want a hard trowel or some kind of finish, either a hard trowel, broom finish. Depends on what it's for.
Yep.
Well, that's just it. If you don't use the high early strength or admixtures to get that to cure faster, you'd be out there all night long waiting for that just to get on it to hard trowel it. And you got to remember, every time you touch concrete, you bring up the water.
Right.
So a lot of times the best thing to do is sit there and look at it and just let it do its thing.
Leave
It
it
doesn't
alone.
harden in 2 minutes, but you don't want to lose it.
Right.
So you want to monitor it. You want to make sure that the temperature is not dropping too much. So you might need to cover that with Visqueen. I know we used to, we'd pour foundation walls and we would cover the forms with those blankets.
Right.
A lot of times we'd put straw on the top of the wall, inside the form, and that
Right.
straw would act as a barrier to keep the frost or anything from settling on top. So there's a lot of tricks the old timers have that work fine. But the thermal blanket's probably the best thing, just draping them over the top and down the walls.
Yeah.
So you want to just monitor it.
So you can tent it and heat it. So can you pour concrete in the winter?
Yes.
Yes, you can. There's just a couple extra things you might want to do. Just like can you pour in really, really hot weather? You
Yes.
can, but there's some other things you want to do.
Yes.
So I think that ideal temperature is going to be between 60 and 80 degrees. That's kind of like the sweet spot for pouring concrete, at least my opinion. But I think that's your sweet spot. Anything else, you got to start thinking about the temperature and what that's going to do to your concrete as it cures or doesn't cure. So I'd say with that, make sure you dingle on that bell, hit that subscribe button, and of course, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think, and keep it square and level.
Till next time.
Until next time, there you go.